All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Anyone who follows boxing even a little bit knows this was a wild one, right? Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Last month, the fallout from this thing has been crazy, so get ready to go deep.
Yeah, and even before the first punch, you had all this stuff happening.
Like what?
Well, the suspensions. Both Paul and Tyson ended up getting slapped with suspensions by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation.
Oh, right, I heard something about that.
And that's where things start to get really interesting, right?
Okay, so everyone knows boxing has suspensions. What's the big deal here?
Okay, so the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, it has this rule where they suspend a fighter for 3 days for every round.
3 days for every round.
Yeah, so since the Paul Tyson fight went for 8 rounds, that meant automatic 24-day suspensions for both of them.
Okay, that makes sense.
But here's the thing. Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor fought on the same card,
Right, that was a great fight.
and they went the full 10 rounds.
Yeah.
But their suspensions were 45 days each.
Really? So longer than Paul and Tyson? That seems kind of weird.
It really makes you think, right?
Hmm.
What's the deal here? Is it about how intense the fight was? Or is there something else going on?
Yeah, especially when you think about how old Mike Tyson is now. He's
Yeah.
58. And there were all those reports before the fight about him needing 8 blood transfusions just to be able to get in the ring.
Exactly. So 24 days
Yeah.
for someone like Tyson at that age, that's got to be a bigger deal, you know?
For sure. It's not like he's a young guy bouncing back from a minor fight. And then you have Jake Paul coming out after the fight and saying he wished Tyson had put up a better fight. Kind of a bold statement, don't you think?
Totally. Come on, this is Mike Tyson we're talking about. This
Mhm.
guy was known for his power and aggression.
Right, exactly. It's not like he was holding back in his prime.
So it really makes you wonder, you know, was Paul being serious? Or was he just trying to stir up some drama? Maybe even hype up a potential rematch down the road.
I mean, stranger things have happened.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Paul didn't stop there. He even went on to say that he was holding back himself.
Really? What did he say?
He actually said he didn't want to put too much hurt on Tyson. Almost like he was concerned about hurting an older fighter. You know, he even apologized to fans for not getting the knockout he'd promised.
So are we supposed to believe he was taking it easy on Mike Tyson?
It's hard to say, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he was trying to show some respect, not go all out against a boxing legend.
Especially a legend who just went through a major health scare. We can't forget about that. Tyson actually came out after the fight and said he had a near-death experience leading up to it.
Whoa, I didn't hear about that. What did he say exactly?
He called it one of those situations when you lost but still won, said he was grateful for the experience and had no regrets.
Wow. That sounds like someone who wasn't really focused on winning or losing. He was just happy to be there to experience that moment.
It definitely puts a different spin on things, doesn't it? Knowing what he went through, just stepping into the ring was a victory in itself.
It's like, yeah, he might have lost the fight on paper, but he won something much bigger.
He faced his fears, he pushed his limits, he inspired a lot of people. That's a powerful message.
And can I add to that whole idea that maybe Paul was holding back out of respect? I mean, could you imagine the pressure he must have been feeling?
Yeah, to try and put on a good show, win convincingly, but also protect this boxing icon who's risking his health to be there.
It's a tough spot to be in. And then you throw Sylvester Stallone into the mix and
Yeah.
things get even wilder.
What did Stallone say?
Oh, he went there. He basically said Tyson threw the fight, called it an Oscar-winning performance.
Seriously, Sylvester Stallone thinks Mike Tyson took a dive.
He even told Paul to be grateful that Tyson spared his life. Can you believe that?
Wow. I bet the internet blew up after that.
Oh, you know it did. People were analyzing every single move, looking for evidence that Tyson was holding back on purpose.
Okay, but let's be real here for a second. Tyson is 58 years old. He just had a major health scare. He's going up against a younger, fitter opponent. Isn't it possible he just wasn't performing at his best?
Of course. It's totally possible. It would be unrealistic to expect him to fight like he did in his prime. But that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating, right? We're left wondering, was Tyson's performance because of his age and health? Was it a strategic choice to protect himself? Or was there something else going on?
Yeah, it's like trying to solve a mystery without all the clues.
And that's what gets people talking, right? It's the mystery, the speculation, the different interpretations. It's all part of the fun.
It's definitely keeping things interesting.
And in a way, that's part of what boxing is all about, isn't it? It's a sport that often leaves us with more questions than answers. It makes us think, it makes us debate, it makes us engage on a deeper level.
So even if we never know for sure what was going through Tyson's mind, the fact that we're still talking about it, That's saying something.
Absolutely. It shows the power of this fight, the impact it had on people. And that's what we're here to explore, right? The story behind the fight, the bigger picture.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Jake Paul's aspirations. This guy's not content with just taking on boxing legends. He's got his sights set on something bigger.
Oh, yeah. He's made it pretty clear what he wants.
What's he aiming for?
He wants to be fighting in the cruiserweight division within the next 2 years.
The cruiserweight division, whoa, that's a whole other level.
It is. And it shows that he's not just messing around. He's serious about making a name for himself in boxing.
But does fighting Mike Tyson, especially under these circumstances, really give him the credibility he needs to make that jump? Or is this just another publicity stunt?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And to really answer that, we need to look at the bigger picture. What's happening with celebrity boxing? Where does it fit into the world of professional boxing? What are the implications for the sport as a whole?
Okay, so let's dive into that. This is where things get really interesting.
It really brings celebrity boxing into focus, doesn't it? I mean, it's been blowing up over the last few years.
Yeah, for sure.
You've got YouTubers and influencers and even actors all stepping into the ring these days.
It's like everyone wants a piece of the action. Remember when Logan Paul, Jake's brother, fought Floyd Mayweather?
Oh, yeah. That was huge.
It felt like a turning point. Suddenly, these exhibition matches, they were generating almost as much buzz as the title fights.
Right. And it makes you wonder, is this a good thing for boxing? Does it bring in new fans, revitalize the sport?
Or is it like cheapening it somehow?
Exactly. Does it take away from the skill and the athleticism of traditional boxing?
There are definitely some strong opinions out there on both sides.
For sure. Sometimes it feels like it's more about the spectacle than the actual sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we're watching a reality show play out in the ring.
Right. And a lot of critics would say that's exactly the problem. They argue that celebrity boxing doesn't have the same level of technical skill or strategy.
Yeah, it can feel pretty obvious when you've got a seasoned pro going up against someone with, like, very limited training.
Right. It can seem almost staged.
But then you have those moments where a celebrity fighter lands a good punch.
Or they show a lot of heart.
And you get caught up in it. You can't help but be entertained.
There's definitely an element of unpredictability there.
It keeps you guessing, and it pulls in a new audience, too. People who maybe wouldn't normally watch boxing.
And you can't deny the personalities involved, the trash talk, the build-up to the fight. It's all part of the appeal.
And to be fair, some of these celebrities are taking it seriously. Like Jake Paul. He's been training, improving his technique. You can tell he's putting in the work.
You're right. He's not just some gimmick fighter.
And there are others like him. They're not just in it for the money. They're actually dedicated to the sport.
And that's important to recognize. They're pushing themselves, developing their skills. They're earning respect from within the boxing community.
But whether you love it or hate it, you can't deny the impact celebrity boxing is having on the business of boxing.
Oh, yeah. These events are bringing in huge money. Pay-per-view numbers, sponsorships. It's creating opportunities for everyone involved.
So maybe it's not about choosing sides. Maybe it's about embracing both sides of the sport.
Interesting. What do you mean?
I mean, we can have the spectacle, the entertainment of celebrity boxing,
Yeah.
but also appreciate the tradition, the skill of classic boxing.
Maybe they can exist together, kind of complement each other.
Yeah, like maybe celebrity boxing is a gateway for new fans. They come for the hype.
But then they discover the beauty of the sport, the strategy, the technique.
Right. Imagine someone watching their favorite YouTuber fight, and then suddenly they're interested in learning about the history of boxing.
The legendary fighters,
Yeah.
the classic rivalries.
It could be a way to bridge the gap between the old and the new.
And who knows, maybe some of these celebrity boxers will even transition to traditional boxing.
It would be interesting to see that happen. It's a really fascinating time for boxing. So much is changing, and it's hard to predict what the future holds. But let's get back to Paul and Tyson. What does this fight mean for them, for their legacies?
That's a really good question. And remember, these are two very different guys. They're at different points in their lives and their careers.
Right. Let's start with Tyson. He's a legend. He's an icon. His place in boxing history is already cemented.
Exactly. This fight was probably a last hurrah for him.
A chance to get back in the ring, do it his way, maybe find some closure.
And his statement after the fight, that whole losing but still winning thing, I think that perfectly captures what it meant to him.
It wasn't about winning or losing in the traditional sense.
Right. He was looking for something more, something personal.
It was pretty inspiring to see him back in there, even if he wasn't the same Tyson we saw in his prime.
And he seemed genuinely happy.
Yeah, you could tell it meant a lot to him.
It showed how much he's grown, how much he's changed. He's found peace outside of boxing.
Hmm.
This fight was more about celebrating that journey.
Now, Jake Paul, on the other hand, he's young, ambitious, he's a disruptor.
He knows how to play the game. He knows how to get people talking.
This fight, with all the controversy, it's only made him more famous.
He's really good at crafting a narrative.
He's the underdog, the outsider, challenging the establishment.
And whether you like him or not, you can't deny his impact.
He's bringing a whole new audience to boxing.
And he's actually talented. He's not just relying on hype.
He's working hard, improving his skills, and he's not shy about his goals.
He wants to move up in weight class, fight tougher opponents, prove that he's a real contender.
It'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. Can he keep this up?
Can he silence his critics?
Will he be able to handle tougher competition in a higher weight class?
Only time will tell.
But one thing's for sure, Jake Paul's here to stay.
He's shaking things up.
He's forcing everyone to adapt. Okay, we've covered a lot. We talked about the fight, the controversy, the impact of celebrity boxing, what it all means for Paul and Tyson, the future of the sport, everything. What's the big takeaway for you? What stands out?
Well, I think the most important thing is that this fight, the way people reacted to it, it's made us really think about what boxing is.
Like, what are we really watching? What makes a fight legitimate?
Is it all about athletic skill? Or is entertainment becoming just as important? How much does personality play into it?
Those are good questions. It feels like the lines are getting blurry.
Right.
It's this mix of sports, entertainment, social media.
It's a whole new experience for fans. And it's not just about what happens in the ring.
Yeah, it's the drama, the rivalries, the personal stories of the fighters. It's the debates and discussions online.
It's become this cultural phenomenon.
And everyone's involved. Everyone's got an opinion. We're analyzing the moves, dissecting the strategies, arguing about the outcome.
That interactivity is really important. And celebrity boxing, it just takes it to a whole other level. Because these are people with huge online followings.
And it creates so much buzz, so much controversy.
So does this mean boxing is changing in a fundamental way?
That's a big question.
I think it does. I think we're moving past that traditional view of boxing as just a pure sport.
It's becoming something more.
We're acknowledging the entertainment side, the personalities, the narratives, the online discussions. It's all part of it now.
It's a new era for boxing.
It's exciting, but it's also challenging. It's forcing us to reevaluate what we value, how we engage with the sport.
And that's why it's so interesting to talk about, to analyze. We're watching it all unfold right in front of us. So much to think about. What's the one thing for you that really sticks out from this whole thing?
Oh, man. Picking one thing is tough, right? This whole fight had, like, layers upon layers. I mean, one thing that keeps coming back to me, it feels like this fight really kicked off a conversation, a conversation about, like, the heart of boxing, what it really is.
Yeah, what's at the core of it all? Why are we so drawn to it? Why do we watch two people get in a ring and beat each other up? It's a good question.
And honestly, like, I don't know if there's one simple answer. It's always been about more than just throwing punches. Boxing, it's about stories. It's about drama. You see people overcoming huge challenges. You see really personal victories. And sometimes, really tough defeat. It's something we can all connect with.
For sure. And the stories are changing now, right? It used to be so clear-cut. You knew who the hero was. You knew who to root for.
Exactly. Now, not so much. Take Jake Paul. He comes in as this, like, internet personality, and people are skeptical, right?
Yeah.
But then you see him putting in the work, getting better, and suddenly the whole story becomes a lot more interesting.
And then on the flip side, you've got Mike Tyson, this legend. He's been through so much, so many ups and downs. This fight, for him, it wasn't about another win on his record. It was something deeper.
Way more personal. And that's something people pick up on. It draws them in. And let's be honest, part of the draw here, a lot of people tuned in for the spectacle. The drama, the personality clash, the whole Paul versus Tyson thing. They wanted to see how the story was going to play out.
They definitely got a story, but not the one most people were expecting, right? It wasn't a knockout. It wasn't a clear victory. It wasn't black and white.
It left everyone with questions. And that's okay. Sometimes the stories that stick with us, the ones that make us really think, are the ones that don't give us easy answers.
So maybe that's the big change that's happening in boxing. Maybe that's what we're seeing right now.
What do you mean?
It's less about the actual win or loss and more about what that win or loss means.
Ooh, I like that.
It's about the stories we build around it, the narratives, the personalities, all of that. The drama that happens in the ring, but also the drama outside the ring.
And that's where the fans come in,
Mhm.
because they're not just watching anymore. They're part of the story. They get to interpret what they see, share their own thoughts, react however they want. It's all connected.
So next time you watch a fight, think about why you're watching. Is it the strategy, the athleticism, the raw power? Or are you watching for the story, the personalities, the chance to see something totally unexpected, something that gets you debating and thinking?
Because when you get down to it, boxing, it's a mirror, you know? It shows us a lot about ourselves, our drive to be the best, to overcome obstacles, to be resilient. And those stories, they're always going to be powerful, no matter how the sport changes.
This has been a great deep dive, so much to unpack. And as always, we want to hear from you. Keep those questions coming, keep exploring these ideas, and until next time, keep those gloves up.